So hummus is a pretty simple dish ingredient wise, and in this case we're making it with only 5 ingredients: chickpeas, tahini, garlic, lemon juice, and salt. So to get the best possible result, we really need to focus on the technique and using the best quality ingredients possible. The main ingredient is of course chickpeas, so that's where we'll start. If you can find them fresh, that would be ideal, but for this recipe I'm gonna focus on either using dried or canned chickpeas because those are the most readily available. I tried both types and found that while the dried chickpeas may have had a slightly better flavor, the canned chickpeas still gave a very similar result, especially when simmered for a short period of time before blending. So feel free to use dried chickpeas if you like, but for this recipe I'm going to focus on the canned ones since they're so much quicker and easier to prepare at home. So to start out, bring a pot of water to a boil over high heat and add a few good pinches of salt for some flavor, maybe 1 to 2 tablespoons total, along with about a half tablespoon of baking soda. Then toss the chickpeas in and let the water return to a boil, then reduce it to a simmer and let them cook for about 20 minutes, stirring occasionally. One key to achieving super smooth hummus is by removing the skins from the chickpeas, so that's why we added the baking soda to the water. The baking soda helps to break down the chickpeas, so the skins basically just fall off as they cook. So after about 20 minutes, once the chickpeas are softened to the point of almost falling apart, give them a quick little stir to release some of those skins, then drain the water out, and you should see a lot of those skins floating to the top and pouring right out as well. Then just remove the chickpeas to a separate bowl. If you like, you can keep repeatedly adding water to the bowl and draining it back out in the same way we just did to remove as many skins as possible until you're satisfied. Again, this really just improves the texture of the hummus, not so much the flavor, so feel free to remove as many or as few skins as you like. But anyways, now that the chickpeas are taken care of, let's move on to the lemon juice and garlic. Now instead of adding the garlic directly to the hummus, we're first going to macerate it using the lemon juice. This basically just means we're going to soak it in the lemon juice for about 20 minutes, which will neutralize some of the garlic's harsher flavors and take some of the bite out of it. Maceration is a super useful technique that can be applied in a lot of different situations. Anytime you want to take a bit of the bite out of your garlic or onion, you can just soak it in some sort of citrus juice or vinegar for about 15 to 20 minutes, and that should do the trick. I pretty much do it every time I make a salad dressing, and I basically never put raw onions on anything without macerating them first. So you can see in this case, I like to mince my garlic a bit to make sure it gets fully coated in the lemon juice. It's also very important to make sure your garlic is fresh. If you see a little green stalk growing in the middle of your clove like this one, that means it's been sitting around for a bit too long and it'll have a really sharp, bitter taste to it, which you don't want in your hummus. It's a common misconception that the green stalk itself is the bitter part, but that's actually not true. The green stalk is an indication that the entire clove will be bitter. So if you see that green stalk, just try to use a different clove that hasn't sprouted yet. Anyways, next we're going to add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, which is the juice from about 3/4 of a lemon. So please don't use any of that bottled stuff here, this has to be the real deal. This is quite a bit of lemon juice, but in my mind this is what really sets a great hummus apart from the rest. Those of you that have seen most of my videos know that I love acidity in my dishes, and in this case the lemon juice provides the perfect zing that we're looking for. So we're going to start with the 3 tablespoons here, and we may even add more when we taste and adjust at the end. So as we let that sit, let's talk about the last ingredient, the tahini. For those of you that don't know, this is basically just a sesame seed paste with a tiny bit of oil in it. So you could of course buy it at the store, but I'd highly recommend making it yourself. The store-bought tahinis I've had are usually overly bitter and far less fresh tasting. And it's super easy to make, not to mention that it's a lot more cost efficient to make it yourself too. All you'll need is about a cup of whole sesame seeds, a few tablespoons of neutral oil, and a few pinches of salt. The sesame seeds can usually be found in bulk at your local grocery store, or you can even buy them pretty cheaply on Amazon like I did. So I'll link the ones I bought in the description below. Anyways, the first thing you want to do is lightly toast the sesame seeds in a dry skillet set over medium-high heat. This is going to give the seeds a super nice, warm, nutty flavor, so don't skip this part. Be sure to toss the seeds frequently because they do burn very easily if you're not careful, and we're really just looking for a light toasting here. The darker they get, the more bitter they'll end up being, so be careful not to over toast them. If you don't feel comfortable tossing them like this, you can stir with a spoon, but this is a great opportunity to practice tossing your ingredients in a skillet. And I mean, come on, just look how cool this looks. Anyways, once the sesame seeds are toasted to your liking, just carefully transfer them to the bowl of your food processor and process them for about a minute until they reach a crumbly powder. It helps to give the food processor a little shake every now and then to make sure everything gets incorporated. At this point, remove the lid and add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of a neutral oil like vegetable oil, along with a couple pinches of salt, and continue to process for another 2 to 3 minutes until you've got a nice smooth tahini. Make sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl as necessary, and feel free to taste and add more salt if you feel it needs it. If you don't use up all your tahini to make hummus, you can keep it in your fridge and use it for a variety of other uses like making sauces and salad dressings. Alright, so now that we finally got all of our ingredients prepped, it's time to make the hummus. And we're going to start by adding all of the ingredients except for the chickpeas to the bowl of your food processor. So add all of the lemon juice that you've been using to macerate the garlic, along with about 1/4 of the garlic to start out. We can always add more garlic later, so it's better to start with less and then taste and adjust as we go. Next, add about 55 grams or 4 tablespoons of your tahini, along with 2 ice cubes, which is about 60 grams of ice. The ice may seem a bit strange, but it'll add to the creaminess of the hummus, slowly melting as it gets blended up, creating an almost ice cream-like texture. Now we're just going to give all of these a quick blend, which should form a nice creamy mixture. And that's why we waited to add the chickpeas, because it's easier to get some nice aeration before those are in there. But now go ahead and add your single can's worth of chickpeas to the bowl of your food processor, along with a couple good sized pinches of salt. This should be about 200 grams of chickpeas, by the way, in case you're not using them from a can. I'm using a food processor here, but you could also make this in a blender if you've got one that's strong enough. We want to be really thorough here, so I'd recommend anywhere from about 2 to 5 minutes depending on how strong your food processor or blender is. We're really just looking to go until we've got a smooth, creamy texture. And of course, feel free to pause as necessary to scrape down the sides of the bowl and make sure everything gets incorporated. Now just give it a taste with your pita bread or whatever you'll be eating the hummus with, and add any more salt, lemon juice, or garlic as necessary. In my opinion, the acidity should really jump out at you, so I'll sometimes add up to another 1 or 2 tablespoons of lemon juice at this point. I'm serving it with some homemade pita bread, which I plan to cover in a future video, but for now I'll leave the recipe I used in the description below for anyone interested. The hummus is also great with pretzels, or even veggies if you're looking to go a bit healthier. Either way, it's way better than anything you'd find at the grocery store, so I'm sure you won't be disappointed if you give it a try. If you like this video, please remember to hit the like button. I'll see you all in the next one.